Let's review what we have learned so far. We have looked at NumPy basics. We have understood what is a data frame and what is a series. Now, starting from this video, we are going to work with real live data. Now, of course, we have to begin with some of the smaller data sets, but nonetheless, these are actual real data. So in this video, we are going to work with iris dataset, and this dataset is available in multiple formats, but we are going to focus on the CSV format. So by the end of this video, you will know how to load CSV files in data frames, how to set indexes. So let's get started. And these are the two places where you can get iris dataset. So the first one is Kaggle. So this is where you will get this dataset. You can see all the information, and you can see that the dataset is available in two formats, CSV and SQLite. So we'll look at both the format one by one. And we also have a UCI. Here also you will have dataset in CSV format, but the file name will be .data. So this is iris.data. This is not iris.csv. So let's start with CSV files first. So let me show you the CSV file that I have. So here is the file, standard CSV file with all these columns: ID, sepal length, sepal width, petal length, petal width, and species. So these are the columns. So let's start with importing pandas. So import pandas as PD. Now once we have pandas imported, you will have a lot of functions which start with read. So if I just type in read and press tab, you can see that there are a lot of functions: read clipboard, CSV, Excel, Feather, HTML, JSON, SQL query. So these are the available functions, and we will be going through some of them. So let's start with a CSV. So the only mandatory parameter is the file name, or rather the file path. So we have data/iris.csv. And if I simply execute it, we will have a data frame loaded. But there is one problem. This ID is actually supposed to be the index of this data frame. So how do we do that? So let's store this data frame in a variable, and let's call a df.setIndex method. So setIndex method, what it will do is it expects only the one parameter, which is the keys. So if you remember, let's try to print a df, and this key is ID. So that's all we need to do. So we just need to pass in ID, and note that this is case sensitive. It should be capital I and D. Execute this. We will see that ID is now set as the index for this data frame. But there is one catch that you need to remember. If you print df, you will see that ID is not set as index because this change is not permanent. It is not made to the data frame itself. So if you want to do that, what you can do is you can create another copies of this data frame, or you can pass in one optional parameter in place and set it to true. So what it will do is it will make the changes at the same place. So now if we look at a df or df.head, either ways, you will see that the ID is set as the index column. Now there is another way. When we were reading this data, we could have passed in one parameter. So let me do that in a new cell. So all we need to do is pass in another optional parameter, index call, and we need to provide the index column number. So in our case, it will be 0. And now if we print df, we can see that ID is set as the index. Another similar function is to read Excel file. So here is the file that we are going to read. So this is the same structure, just that it is saved as XLSX. So internally the function implementation is completely different, but for us it's the same. We just need to call and the XLSX file, and let's save it into a data frame, and let's print the head, and we have exactly the same thing. And again, we have the same optional parameter index call, and we can set it to 0. So we have now ID set as the index. Now let's look at a few more functions. So here in this CSV file, you saw that this is a comma separated file. So let's open this file in fact. So if we open this file in a notepad, you'll see that all the columns are separated with commas. So what if there is some other character? So very frequently you will find that the other character to separate these columns is tab. So I just made a copy of this file, and if you look at it, instead of commas we have tabs here. So if you want to read that, it's actually simple, because basically this is still a CSV file. So what we can do is we can again call read a CSV, this function, pass in iristab.csv, and just pass optional parameter which is SEP for separator, and here we can pass in \t, and optionally we can pass in index column, and this is going to produce the same results. And if we do not provide this, you will see that this is all messed up. So this is again quite useful function. There is one more function which is very similar, which is written on top of this read CSV, and that function is a read table. So this works exactly the same as a read CSV. The only difference is the default values of separator is different. So in case of read table, the default value of separator is tab. So if you want to read a CSV which is comma separated, this will not work properly. So if you are explicitly supplying the separator, read table and a read CSV, they are identical. I hope you enjoyed the video as much as I did in creating it. Hold on, and we are going to continue our journey of learning pandas.